Nigeria, the giant of the African continent, is about 170 million in population with several needs for survival, despite its numerous natural resources. The nation has witnessed very unpleasant times in various areas, including insecurity, infrastructural deficit, and most of all, a lean national purse, which has affected its economic output. Perhaps that is the reason why a tough decision was taken at the Federal Executive meeting of the 27th September 2017 to pull Nigeria out of 90 international organizations. The Finance Minister, Kemi Adeosun, discloses that Nigeria is owing backlog of $120 million in membership dues and other financial commitments.
Basically, Nigeria is a member of 310 international organizations, and a committee was set up to actually review the rationale for our continued membership of such a large number of organizations, particularly in the light of the fact that in many cases we are not actually paying our financial obligations and subscriptions, which is causing some embarrassment to Nigeria and our image abroad. And in particular, it was discussed that there are some commitments made to international organizations, even by, well, not by this president, but by former presidents, which were not cash backed. So when our delegations then turn up at those organizations, we become very embarrassed. So that was what drove the committee. The committee made some recommendations that out of the 310 organizations, 220 should be retained, and the rest we should remove or withdraw membership from. But the council directed that more work needed to be done. In particular, there was a dispute as to the figure of how much is owed. The committee had a figure of about $122 million, but we are clear from the Ministry of Finance and other ministries that it's far more than that, as subscriptions are in arrears in a number of major organizations. So the directive of the council was that we should go and reconcile those figures and come back to council and have a payment plan for those figures to avoid Nigeria being embarrassed internationally. And also that circulars needed to be issued on who can commit Nigeria, because what we identified was that in some cases it would be a director or an ambassador who attended a meeting who committed a subscription on behalf of Nigeria, and of course the international organization then begins to chase us for its money. So we need to tighten up the procedures for committing Nigeria to any form of subscription or donation to an international organization.
Some of the international organizations Nigeria belongs to are African, Caribbean and Pacific Group of States, African Development Bank ADB, African Union AU, Commonwealth of Nations, Economic Community of West African States ECOWAS, Food and Agriculture Organization FAO, Group of 15, G19, Group of 24 and Group of 77. Others include According to Mrs. Adeosun, Exiting the bodies is a recommendation by a committee set up to review the country's membership of the organizations. She maintains that the country has not been able to meet up with the financial obligations that come with the membership, even though many of them may not be particularly relevant to Nigeria. In her revelations, the minister says $70 million is expended as yearly membership subscription to the world bodies.
The committee are due to come back within the next 2 weeks on with the final figures, and then ministers were then asked to look at the recommendations of those international organisations which we want to withdraw from and ensure that they are in support of those decisions, and then we'll finalise the work on this issue. So basically this is just really about prudence and value for money. Nigeria doesn't need to be a member of every single organisation, but those which we are members of, we've made a decision as FEC that we must pay our obligations. We must prioritise and pay obligations because that's part of the nation's image. That's what gives Nigerians, Nigeria as a country, the right to sit up very straight at international meetings. When you haven't paid your subscriptions, you can't necessarily do so.
We catch up with a senior advocate of Nigeria, Mr. Femi Falana, who insists that the decision by the federal government to pull out from some international organization is in the right direction, but has his reservations.
Intention of the government is to save from some costs of running these organizations or maintaining our membership of this organization. The details have not been set out. We need to know these organizations and why we want to pull out from any of them or from all of them. It has to be a public issue. But if the government is really interested in saving costs, we're wasting a lot of money in maintaining some of our embassies. I was recently in an African country, a North African country, and I discovered to my utter embarrassment that our country has maintained an embassy in that country since 1962, right? And our country has been occupying rented apartments since 1962. And I asked the ambassador, our ambassador to that country, how much are we paying per annum? He said, $800,000. And I said, Your Excellency, in 10 years, that is $8 million. You mean the government cannot take a loan of $8 million, build a befitting embassy so that we can save cost? But, and you have that situation, such financial profligacy in many parts of the world. So I think those are the areas that government may want to save